Before we get started, I want to remind you to check out Indiegogo.com, Indiegogo.com. Search for Stuart Cooper Films. Stuart needs your help to produce over 20 documentaries on the best jiu-jitsu and MMA athletes. This is for the fans and the jiu-jitsu community, the fighters. It's online and free. Stuart makes some amazing documentaries, highlight videos in jiu-jitsu. He's been doing it for over 5 years now. He does it almost exclusively at his own expense. He gets a little help from sponsors. They're always free to the viewers. And he does a fantastic job. And he's raising money to make 20 documentaries that, you know, everyone wants to see. So I want to encourage you to check it out. Help him out any way you can. Go to Indiegogo.com and search for Stuart Cooper Films. In case you didn't know, this is the Inside BJJ podcast. Hey, we'd like to welcome everybody to the Inside BJJ podcast. We want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by you, the listeners. We don't take any affiliate money. We don't take any advertising, sponsorship, junk, any of that now. We are brought to you by our listeners, the people who enjoy the show. If you want to help out, go to insidebjj.com/premium. Get yourself a premium subscription. It's $1.99 a month. What does that get you? That gets you access to the entire back catalog of every show we've ever done. You get access to the premium-only shows and our behind-the-scenes show. So it's very much worth it, and it goes to a good cause. It helps us bring you amazing interviews like the ones that we have set up today. So go to insidebjj.com/premium and get yourself a premium subscription. Also has some t-shirts for sale. Amazing insidebjj.com/t-shirts. Go to insidebjj.com/donate. $30 donation gets you a nice shirt, includes shipping, and $10 of every sale goes to the San Joaquin Women's and Children's Center to help those that need the help. So yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, you've seen the title of today's show. We did it. We had the chance to sit down and talk with Rickson Gracie and capture his thoughts on our podcast, and we're going to play that interview for you in just a few minutes. But I got to say, it was a little bit surreal to get it set up. And, you know, look, I know people are just people, and men are just men, women are just women. But when you're involved in something like jiu-jitsu or surfing or whatever it is, right, any kind of niche art or martial art or sport or technical thing or whatever, there are always people that are considered to be either like the thought leaders in that particular thing, or, you know, the high level gurus, Zen masters, whatever you want to call them. And Rickson Gracie, whether you agree or disagree with him, is definitely one of those figures in the world of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And there's still a lot of stories about him. A lot of, you know, things are out there. People are like, hey, we don't know if this is myth. We don't know if this is real. We don't know if did he really tap a bunch of, you know, champion level black belts? Well, stories I heard, yeah, you know, but I don't know. So it can be a little bit unnerving to sit down and talk with a guy like this. It can be a little bit exciting for sure. It could be intimidating for sure. But it was still a pretty amazing experience. And I got to say, just a few minutes into the interview, I kind of had a little bit of a gut check, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm wasting this guy's time with my silly little questions, you know. But I think you'll enjoy the interview. We covered a lot of topics that don't always come up, but some of them are, you know, kind of standard questions. But it's interesting to get his feedback and philosophy on it, and get his mindset on some of these things that are going on in the jiu-jitsu world and mixed martial arts. And we talk about his son, Crone, and his debut into mixed martial arts and what his thoughts are on that, why a lot of guys right now from the jiu-jitsu world have trouble transitioning into mixed martial arts. All of those amazing things. But I got to say, in the 130, regular episodes that we've put out, Rickson Gracie has always been at the top of the list in terms of names that we wanted to have on the podcast. And I'm really, really happy that we could do this and get this out there. And I wanted to thank him for taking the time to do it. Obviously we're just a bunch of local Stockton boys, born on the wrong side of the tracks. And, we just happen to be fascinated with fighting and wrestling and jiu-jitsu and boxing and anything that has to do with combat. It's just, I don't know what it is, man. It's just in our blood and we love it. And we love to do it and we love to talk about it. And, we live in a world today where we're able to do that, record it and distribute it to anyone who's willing to listen. And obviously there's a lot of other people out there who love it just as much as we do. So we want to thank you for your support. And I just wanted to say real quick before we jump to the interview, look, if you enjoy hearing this today, please do us a favor. Give us a review on iTunes. And just take a couple minutes out of your day, man. Rate the show, refer a friend, send a positive tweet out about it, something, put something on Facebook, just something that can kind of help us out. If you got $1.99 burning a hole in your pocket, you probably have that much change in the back seat of your car. Sign yourself up for a premium subscription. You get access to everything we've ever done. And, it really helps us out. And it's a pretty amazing thing. We're pretty happy that we managed after, almost, I guess, about 3 years of just kind of plugging away to bring you the person that we really, really wanted to get out of everyone else that we've ever had on the show. We've always wanted to get Rickson Gracie. So it's a pleasure and honor to be able to bring it to you. So we hope you enjoy it. And without further ado, Rickson Gracie. Welcome to the Inside BJJ podcast. We are joined on the line with a very special guest, someone that we have tried to and have always wanted to speak to here at Inside BJJ, the one and only Rickson Gracie. How you doing this afternoon, Rickson?
Great, my friend. How are you doing, Tim?
Doing very well. It's a pleasure to talk to you today.
So mine.
So, hey, first of all, I just want to ask you, how you doing these days? How's your health, and what are you up to?
I think my middle name has to change to moderation, because after I have done so overuse of my body, of course I have some chronic injuries, but I have to feel very blessed and very thankful to keep doing my things with moderation. I keep training, I keep surfing, I keep doing my exercises, but I have to respect the actual extreme conditions I put my body on my life, and I'm happy to just functioning halfway right now.
How difficult is that for guys, especially, most of our listeners, they're really into jiu-jitsu and they love jiu-jitsu. They read about jiu-jitsu, talk about jiu-jitsu, train jiu-jitsu. But it seems to me like the longer you are involved in it, it's harder on your body if you don't start to kind of have some moderation in how you train and the way you train. How difficult is that for jiu-jitsu guys to accept?
I think, you have to combine this, like anything in life. You have to understand the benefits and the bad side of overdoing. And of course, in between, you have to be motivated enough to keep practicing and also be able to once you're on the mat, it's not only the practice, it's more like the rituals and the actual be at service, make some advices and be involved with the people on the mat as a friend. So it's a lot of things are very positive for you to keep doing for life. My interaction with Jiu-Jitsu those days is maybe, physically speaking, is about 5 to 10% of what it was before. but still, like, I'm maximizing my time on the mat. I really try to make a difference, and you know, not only for myself, but for the people who's involved with. So it's all about, you know, mindset and motivation, and of course, it's more than just a practice. It's more like for me, it's more like a religion. It's something which has to be involved, and you know, I really have my life dedicated to Jiu-Jitsu and to surf, because the ocean is also giving me a good feeling. So those things I'm never going to be away from, you know. It's just the way I can like relate myself to life, and that's just pretty much. You have to know how to adapt and to evolve as the age comes, you know, and you have to find ways to still motivate it on the mat.
Yeah, and it seems like as you change and your priorities change in life, and you get older and your body changes, you have to be smart enough to know what you can and can't do and how you can help. You know, because like when you start out, you just want to learn so much and you want to be good and you want to, you know, use all the techniques you're learning. But the longer you're around, you realize that it's important, like you say, to help other people, to start passing it down, to start being a service to other people. So that's great advice for our listeners.
Definitely, because you know, Jiu-Jitsu, when once getting into somebody's life, plays a big role. You know, not only in the effectiveness of your response to some kind of training or combat or whatever, but also in the way you think and the way you're able to make your strategies under pressure, and how your mind starts to work and be willing to adapt to in a survival mode sometimes because you're tired, and sometimes taking advantage of the timing and become sharper in your mind. So you're playing ways for you to learn how to humble yourself. So it's a learning process where you learn a lot about yourself, and that kind of familiar relationship you're able to do with you inside, you know, with you like within in a very internal way. That's kind of change your life and change your possibilities and change, you know, the way you believe and the way you strategize for the world and all the different matters, you know, in your life. So is really something which once you get involved with, you know, it's just a way for you to keep like getting the best of yourself, because you're putting at test, you measure your emotional control, your endurance control, your you know, capacity to handle situations and resilience. So there's a lot of things which you know, you start to get addicted to become like in touch of yourself, you know. So it's a very important in one level, even in the spiritual practice, you know, because that's going to keep you somehow in a mind where you not only focus in the result, but you focus on how you're going to handle the entire journey, you know, the performance as you go in the mat, and how you become more in control of your emotions and about your personality, how you start to believe more in things you know, your references, you know, to as like a conduct. So this is something really important in all levels.
How much do these lessons that you learn in jiu-jitsu, and that they're with you your whole life, and you talk about how it becomes like a religious experience, how well do those types of lessons transfer over into mixed martial arts? Because we see a trend a lot with jiu-jitsu guys starting to move away from competitive jiu-jitsu and make a move towards mixed martial arts.
I think, you know, when you get involved to a practice which translates in effectiveness, all this has that purpose of being effective, give you a sense of choices, of, you know, because it's not about victory. It's about finding ways to don't lose. In that kind of perspective, Jiu-Jitsu can help you to find a solution for basically every problem. And once you get adapted, once you get comfortable to find, strategically speaking, to find, spiritually speaking, a solution, for the problems, you're not going to give up, you're going to have some kind of technique to back you up. So that's going to take you, especially in the martial arts, because martial is war. When you at war, regardless if you're on the mat, regardless if you with a pen in your hand, when you adapt your mindset to a warfare, you have to use those elements who are kind of within the practice of Jiu-Jitsu, and that's kind of make you feel familiar with elements who are totally 100% usable on a warfare. No matter if you're a doctor, no matter if you're a police officer, no matter if you're a politician, no matter if whatever you do, you're gonna feel pressure. You're gonna have to strategize. You're gonna have to be sharp. You're gonna have to know how to dodge the problems and climb the obstacles and be confident, believe in success. You have to have like different elements who are very similar. And I believe through the perfect practice of Jiu-Jitsu, especially, as a martial arts, I feel like you get feed from those essential elements to become like a warrior, And those days is more like become a spiritual warrior than anything else.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Can you talk a little bit about your son Krohn's recent signing with the Real Fight organization and his debut into mixed martial arts? Can you talk about what his motivation is for that?
Oh yes, I mean, Krohn is being like trying to express himself. I mean, not in a sense of for the people see, but in a sense he wants to do all he can do to be, at his best and use his techniques, his everything he has at the highest level, So I have a lot of respect for that because, he, in one point back, he told me, hey, Dad, whatever you gave me, all the advices, all the knowledge, everything you gave me, I'm very thankful, but put me in one place. But if I want to go and if I want to reach the place I really want to reach, I have to make this only a part of what I really want to do, and now it's up to me. It's my effort, it's how much time I'm going to do it and redo it and do it again, and how much, it's all about how much pressure I'm going to take it, and everything is about me now. And I felt like that kind of statement put him in a position where he cannot blame nobody about his failures or and all the success he has today is based on his efforts, not about what he learned, it's how he's using that. So I'm very proud of him and his motivation. And at that point in his life, he is very much into MMA because he feels like as part of our tradition, Jiu-Jitsu is not about medals, it's about effectiveness. And the way he's always been practiced, his Jiu-Jitsu is always to be either the bad one, the good or the bad one out there, but he wants to just display effectiveness. And he's being a little disappointed with the Jiu-Jitsu competition style, and he's not exactly motivated to just engage when his opponents want to engage in a different way, in a path of become efficient to make a medal, but not effective in order to be the best man out there. So it's a little tricky gray area on the Jiu-Jitsu competition, and he wants to go for MMA because even though the MMA rules today are kind of a little strict from like a perfect, what I say perfect technique, because you need time to elaborate a good, if you're talking about the technique, you have to have even better defense than offense and wait for the moment. But that's a different thing. That's, I think, from the past. Today's MMA is based on a very explosive, very dynamic qualities for the athletes, plus, a good bunch of techniques. And Kron now is not only a good technician, but also is physically trying to put himself in a contest level, for all the other athletes. He don't give advantage of, he also will lose some weight to compete. He also will do all the routines to become strong in his weight division and just do physically and technically whatever he can do to prove himself effective, I think that's all he has in his mind right now is the desire to go in that stage, in that level of fighting style and compromise to expose himself and he told me it's not about victory only. It's about go there and feel the whole vibe and become a pro fighter and fight, and if he wins, he's going to keep fighting. If he loses, he's going to keep fighting. Something he wants to do for a while, just, to embase his career in that kind of element of real fight situation,
Does Kron feel like he accomplished everything that he wanted to accomplish in Jiu-Jitsu?
He's happy in Jiu-Jitsu because he proved himself. He established a good name in the grappling world, Of course, he's still with visions of grappling fights, submission fights with gi, without gi. He loves to do this. But I feel like his motivation right now is towards, this new phase of MMA. I think that's for him will be something we really want to put him. He don't feel like he has to prove anything on the jiu-jitsu, the grappling world, as he has to prove on the MMA universe. So this transition in his heart is the most needed thing for now.
Is there any particular reason why he signed with Real Fight, which is a Chinese-based mixed martial arts organization? Did he have offers from other organizations, or was this just the best fit for him?
I think, as a good strategy, first, is a Chinese/Japanese organization. The producer is a Japanese guy, and he tried to make some event covering the whole Asia. And the first ones are done in China, but the Kron will debut in Japan. And also Korea is involved. So it's like they try to make an Asia version of the UFC, So that's pretty much, but it's a basically Japanese production.
I see.
And also, I think it's a great deal for Kron begin there, because in any other event, if you don't have experience, it's hard to make a good position to make a good contract for single or maybe a couple fights only. And in case of victory, you can get bonus or something more. So it's hard to negotiate with those top players, especially in US and Europe. In Japan is better because already it's like 20 years after I began, Kron will start, and there's a lot of history on that, and they value a lot that kind of history. And even though Kron will debut, he already doing a main event. He will find somebody who's proportionally, for Kron for the first time, for his first fight. So everything will be there, a better deal for him as a first fight. He cannot get a first fight nowhere else as good as we're doing right now. So I see like Kron's career is something he can use as a leverage to bring to Jiu-Jitsu, And I see Japan as a great starting point because they value martial arts, they value the Gracie reputation, and it's all good. So I don't see a better place to start with. What happened next, I don't know, but that's a great place to start.
Why is it so difficult? We see so many great jiu-jitsu fighters who make the transition to mixed martial arts, and they struggle with the transition. Why is that so difficult, and what do you think will be the most difficult challenge for Kron in his transition?
I think, first of all, jiu-jitsu is complex, and the root and the actual backbone of jiu-jitsu is not the jiu-jitsu competition aspect of it, but it's the self-defense aspect of it. So, in my opinion, today, the great competitors, they have the option to choose between making medals by stepping on the brake or making medals by stepping on the gas. Based on the rules, based on the strategy used those days for tournaments, sometimes you can see guys making medals efficiently, but that efficiency doesn't translate in the real life situations because they have like berimbolos and 50-50s and positions who kind of putting a good control on the speed of the fight, a good control on the positioning of the fight, but because the grips and the lack of motion, they lose the concept of pressure and evolutionary concept to go and to submit. So that's why, regardless. You practice in jiu-jitsu, sometimes you can have a very effective street fight jiu-jitsu, or you can have a very lousy, a very ineffective jiu-jitsu, self-defense like jiu-jitsu, and able still to make medals in tournaments and become a very famous fighter. So the way I've been training, the way I see it, is very hard for the jiu-jitsu practitioner get problems. You know, he can have like a knockout, he can lose a fight, but all the positionings in the engagement are positions where the jiu-jitsu fighter should have comfortable to deal, either to protect himself and don't get caught in bad positions, or to take advantage of positions and submit and win the fight. So when you're talking about jiu-jitsu and MMA, I see very few people today, if some, who can represent jiu-jitsu those days. Even though there's a lot of people who do jiu-jitsu for life, their jiu-jitsu starts to become replaced by the extensive wrestling training and boxing training, and the rules, the engagement now favors the strikers. So people start to maybe put a jiu-jitsu aside a little bit as like, okay, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, if you go to the ground, I may gonna do my thing, but I want to go for the real fight and punch and this. And so, and then they shift the attention and they start to using like jiu-jitsu only on the extra moments or in the easy times. They don't focus on making the fight engagement under the jiu-jitsu rules and connection, you know. So it will be interesting to see if all this theory I'm just telling about will work with Kron.
I hear you. I hear you.
But I'm very optimistic, I tell you, man.
Yeah, for sure. How do you feel about Kron? He's trained off and on with the Diaz brothers, who are, you know, they live in the same city that we do our show from, and we see them from time to time.
Oh yeah, that's great. I mean, I feel like great. You know, it's a great experience for Kron. You know, a bunch of warriors. You know, the Diaz brothers plus the others, the Menendez, the Jack Childe, and all the guys. They very tough warriors, and they're very good, positive group of people. You know, I really I admire their personalities and their compromise, the engagement with the art and the devotion, the sacrifice they do. So they're tough guys, And I think for Kron, who's a newcomer, he has a bunch of good guys he trusts, and like more than just training partners, they're good friends, and they become a very friendly group. So I really like to see Kron get that experience, get those moments of doubts and confusion, because all like a new element. But he starts to become more comfortable. He starts to become more like breathing the air, and as I advise, and he knows, all those elements has to be to feed his potential in Jiu-Jitsu. So he has to become effective and neutralizing and bringing his Jiu-Jitsu to flourish on top of the striking, on top of the wrestling. So the idea is all use that experience to bring the fight for Jiu-Jitsu. He will be like a Jiu-Jitsu fighter in the cage, not exactly trying to become a good boxer or something else. He's going to be more focused on the grappling aspect.
Is Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, is it all that you need to know to be successful in MMA? And the reason I ask is, obviously there's other Gracies and other Jiu-Jitsu fighters who are in mixed martial arts, and some of them have been criticized because they didn't stick to just Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Maybe they tried to box too much, or they tried to wrestle too much and didn't see the results that they wanted. Is it all that you need to know?
I think, is a gray area who has to be clarified. I think the great Jiu-Jitsu fighter has to feel comfortable and play in different distances, because the striking is a different distance, a different element from Jiu-Jitsu. So the Jiu-Jitsu practitioner is supposed to get that kind of engagement, that kind of sense of real distance for the striker, and he start to neutralize, start to have like the anti-game, applying Jiu-Jitsu as soon as possible. It's like, it's important in any aspect of the fight. You have to bring your elements. Like in the case, like if I'm a Jiu-Jitsu fighter, I had to have the practice of putting somebody with gloves and trying to beat me and try to get the distance he needs. And I have to feel committed to stay either outside or know how to get inside comfortably, and know how everything in between, how to use my inside fight, my elbows, So if you ask me if this is Jiu-Jitsu, yes, but it is specifically to play the striking game. So I have to have, not exactly in a Jiu-Jitsu class, not exactly on the kimono structure class for Jiu-Jitsu, I have to have somebody who is coming from the striking universe and start to play the striking universe to see how I'm going to play my Jiu-Jitsu. So, yes, Jiu-Jitsu is enough, but I have to practice in a different methodology to be very, very focused and very applicable on the cage. It's not exactly, I don't have to shift, okay, now I have to go to a boxing gym. But that will keep me completely in a different mode of set up my distance and have my goals. And imagine me like start to learning how to strike to eventually get some guy like Anderson Silva or somebody top-notch striker. So it's impossible, because even though if I'm a good learner, I'm going to have like a learning process of at least 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years to become my best. But if I learn how to apply my anti-jiu-jitsu, like anti-striking game, will be more comfortable, because I'm going to be more adjusting and knowing what you need and be able to defend and neutralize. So that development has to be done specifically for MMA. But it's something we can do by combining the elements of jiu-jitsu plus the outside universe, like strikers and wrestlers, to add to our response,
Agreed. And I think we've seen that type of mindset we've seen from a lot of American wrestlers who have taken the mindset that they're not going to have enough time to learn jiu-jitsu effectively, so they learn submission defense, and that's all that they kind of know is just how to defend the submission, but they mostly focus on their wrestling. So you kind of see a similar
so
mindset.
They establish their control, the ground and pound, and they know how not going to get caught by triangles or arm locks. So they kind of smart in the survival. They make the anti-jiu-jitsu, and they come in with the body control and the ground and pound who the wrestling already provides to them. So that's for their side is the best strategy. No doubts about it. Yes.
I wanted to ask you real quick, Rickson, when you were coming up in jiu-jitsu and learning and getting involved in mixed martial arts, who was your mentor?
We coming from a traditional family, and our reference has always been my father, my uncles, what they said, how they fight, and how long they fight, and how much they're resilient, and how much they respect and honor the tradition. So that's something which we feed us since we basically start to understand what we are in the world. And then becomes like the actual practice, And my father was already like on his highly 50s when I started to become play around on the. So in other words, he was not there for me, giving me tips or mentoring my classes, but the concepts you understand, and then you start to become familiar with the practice, which is all that matters is just make yourself go into the gym and play and play. In the recess of the class, you play with the other kids, and tag wars, whatever, and you become familiar, and then as you become like somebody who already comfortable on the grappling, you start to understand you have to represent, and that kind of feeling of representing the family and representing the tradition make you excel in the training, make you devote your time and effort, and then when you start to get those results of efficiency, it's just like in your blood, So I'm my mentor, spiritually speaking, as my father is the guy who generates the whole motivation for me to practice. But technically speaking, Horion was a mentor, Halls was a mentor, Hazen was a mentor, in a way Carson, all the cousins and older guys who are in the family, they represent something. And one point, a very important figure in my life, in my daily practice sometimes, because so all those they have in various ways a very important role, and we just belong to a complex family, and that kind of unified mindset was what's always kind of pushed us forward.
Do you feel like you accomplished everything you wanted to accomplish in jiu-jitsu and in mixed martial arts?
If I say that, I'm lying, because if I look back, I have a huge career for myself. I have on the mat. I have nothing to prove to fill up my ego or to have to show somebody nothing. I have done a lot, but if I say about my past and not thinking about my future, I feel like I'm losing time here because I'm still alive. So I find my ways to feel motivated. Motivated to accomplish other things, and at this point in my life, and I like to have a future conversation with you because we are about to launch a huge project to the community and to favor the sport in the community. But will be like maybe a month from now, so next time. But anyway, I keep motivated because that is a very important element for anyone is be always motivated to conquer something, to accomplish something, to keep your journey, So I feel like Jiu-Jitsu is my life. I feel like is a demand, is a huge passion. I mean, Jiu-Jitsu is growing so much in the last 30 years, and so it's a big motivation for me to keep working with Jiu-Jitsu, for Jiu-Jitsu. And I feel like my next 20 years will be busy if I'm still alive.
Well, I think the jiu-jitsu community is, very interested in anything that you have to offer for sure. And I wanted to thank you for taking the time to talk with us today at Inside BJJ. It's a real pleasure and an honor to speak with you. And for sure, we look forward to speaking with you in the future.
Thank you, Tim. And I thank you again for you guys. And hi for the listeners, and hope see you guys on the mat someday.
Sounds
you
good.
Take it easy, man.
Thanks.
All the best.
So there you go. I don't know, not too shabby, huh? Pretty good thoughts on Rickson Gracie. I enjoyed it. Thought it was pretty good. Liked what he had to say. Pretty excited to get him back on. I think for sure we're going to have him back on in the not so distant future to talk about some more things. And I think we need guys like Rickson Gracie to kind of provide some kind of direction. The jiu-jitsu world's kind of going all over the place, and there's a lot of disagreement about what it should be, what it is, what it will be, etc. And I think it's good when guys that have devoted their lifetime to it and have achieved a certain level of success in it on the mats, and when they can kind of chime in and give their idea and their feedback and their philosophy in a clear way and in a directive way where, they could have some positive influence on people that are getting involved in jiu-jitsu. And it's going to grow. It's not done growing. It's going to continue to grow. And we're going to need people like Rickson who, he's not selling anything, and he's not trying to get you to buy a special thing or anything like that. He's just giving some direction, giving his feedback, telling you what he thinks, and he's kind of telling it to you from a very internal, almost spiritual standpoint. So you can kind of take it for what it is, and make sure you let your friends know. Rickson Gracie, Inside BJJ. We got a lot of cool things lined up for you this summer, and we're hoping to get many more big names on coming up in the future. We're working on some really big names, but we don't know. You never know what's going to go on, and it's tough. It's weird. It's not easy, but it sure is a lot of fun. And this started as just a whim. This whole podcast started because I was driving back from Worlds, I think in 2010, and I was driving from LA to Stockton, which is it's like the most desperate, lonely drive. And there's just field after field and like lonely gas station and McDonald's after lonely gas station and McDonald's. And I remember telling my wife, man, I really want to do something with jiu-jitsu, just beyond training, just something different, like a project. And so the idea for Inside BJJ came about, and it was a website, and I did that for quite a while. And I just realized, I'm already talking to these guys, and I'm already recording everything and transcribing interviews and posting them in text form online. I'm like, why don't I just capture the audio and throw it out there? And talk to Ernest and Ryan and Matt, and we just said, what, let's just do it. And so I just had some really, lame equipment and just kind of set a recorder in the middle of a room, and we just did episode 1, and we just did it, hey, let's just do it, whatever. And, got some play, and we did episode 2, and then pretty soon it was episode 20 and episode 40, and pretty soon people were hitting us up. Hey, we want to come on the show. We like the show. It's really been overwhelming. For as much criticism as we get for all of our stupidity and all the banter and all the times when we talk about everything else other than jiu-jitsu, we still get quite a bit positive feedback from people who like listening to the show. And, everyone's involved. We need Matt, we need Ernest, we need Francisco and Ryan, and everyone plays a part. And we need the jiu-jitsu community, all the listeners, right? Everyone plays a part. Even Wade, even Wade is important. We need people like Wade because we can shame them for not having premium subscriptions. You know what I mean? Like guys like Magnum and Winterstick and Frank Rizzo and Jay Cash. Those are all Conrad. Those are all really, really cool, supportive members of the show. Gabriel, right? We just get consistent messages. Liz and Dave from all kinds of cool people that we've been able to meet over the last few years, and it's been a super pleasure to do. So I'm glad that you could listen to Rickson Gracie on the Inside BJJ podcast.